In this video we're going to look at sort of rearranging equations to change the subject. So here's our first question. Make x the subject of y equals 3x plus 2. Well, making x the subject means that we want to end up with a final answer that says x equals something, or alternatively something equals x. They're both the same thing really. But rather than sort of a normal equation solve, rather than getting x as a number at the end, what we're going to have is x is an algebraic expression. So it's going to have, in this case, y's in our answer. So how do we solve these? Well, we solve them really similar way to a normal equation. We're going to do the same operations to both sides and work to get x on its own. So let's work through this one. We start with y equals 3x plus 2. Let's just look at that x on the right hand side. What's happening to it? Well, the x gets multiplied by 3 and then we add 2 to it. So to get x on its own, we're sort of going to work backwards and do the opposite of what's happening to x. So remember, x is multiplied by 3 and then added 2. Working backwards, we're going to subtract 2 from both sides first of all. So we get, on the left hand side we get y minus 2, and on the right hand side the 2 disappears and we just get 3x. And now we need to get rid of this multiplied by 3, so the inverse of that is dividing by 3, so we're going to divide both sides by 3. So on the right hand side we just get x, and on the left hand side we have to divide the whole of the left hand side by 3. So that gives us y minus 2 over 3. And that's it, we're done. We've got x equals y minus 2 over 3. We've changed the subject, now x is the subject of this equation. Okay, great. Let's try a slightly more difficult example. So now we're going to look at x squared plus 7 equals 3y plus 2. Again, we're going to make x the subject, so x squared plus 7 equals 3y plus 2. Again, we'll look at the x side. What's happened? We're squaring and adding 7, so work backwards. We're going to take away 7 and then square root. So first we take away 7 from both sides. We get x squared equals 3y plus 2 minus 7 gives a minus 5. And then to get rid of the squaring, we're going to square root both sides. And so the left hand side becomes x, and the right hand side is the square root of 3y minus 5. And there we have it. We've made x the subject. Okay, let's have another example. Okay, let's have one with z's in as well. There's no reason why we can't. So let's make x the subject of 2y plus 4z equals 4x minus 3 over 2. Okay. So 2y plus 4z equals 4x minus 3 over 2. So again, we'll look at what's happening to the x's. We're multiplying by 4, subtracting 3, and then dividing by 2. So let's work backwards and do the opposite. We're going to start by multiplying both sides by 2. The left-hand side, if we double the left-hand side, we got 4y plus 8z. And on the right-hand side, the divide by 2 disappears. So now the right-hand side is 4x minus 3. So we need to add 3 to both sides to get rid of the minus 3. So now we get 4y plus 8z plus 3 equals 4x. Then finally, to get rid of that 4, it's a multiply by 4, so we need to divide both sides by 4. And we get 4y plus 8z plus 3 over 4 is equal to x. We've made x the subject. Okay, and we'll do maybe one more sort of like this, and then we'll finish off with a slightly trickier example. So Our next example is going to have squaring in. So let's have 4y plus, actually we'll make it cubing, x plus 4 cubed equals y plus 1. Okay, so again we want to get that x on its own. What's happening to x? We add 4 to it, then we cube, then we add 4y. So our first step is going to be to take, well, let's just write this down here. We've got 4y plus x plus 4 cubed equals y plus 1. So first of all, we're going to get rid of this 4y on both sides. We're going to subtract 4y. Both sides, we get x plus 4 cubed equals y plus 1, take away 4y, is 1 minus 3y now. 1y take away 4y gives us 3y. Okay, now we have x plus 4 and then cubed. So we add 4 first, we cube. So working backwards, we need to get rid of the cubed first, get rid of the cubed by doing a cube root of both sides. So if we cube root the left hand side, we get x plus 4. And if we cube root the right hand side, we just get the cube root of 1 minus 3y. We don't have to simplify it, we just write the cube root of 1 minus 3y. Then finally, to get rid of the plus 4, we subtract 4 from both sides, and we get x equals the cube root of 1 minus 3y minus 4. Cube root of 1 minus 3y minus 4. That's our final answer. X is the subject. Okay, we'll do one final, more difficult example now. So, here's the question. We're going to make x the subject of 3x plus 4y equals ax plus 6. So we want to make x the subject. Now the reason why this one is more difficult is because there's now two x's in our original equation. We've got an x on this side and an x on the other side. We've got x on both sides, which makes it a little bit more tricky. The key, if we have x on both sides, is first of all to get all the x's on the same side. So let's move all the x's to the left hand side, let's say. To do that, we need to get rid of the ax on the right hand side, so we're going to subtract ax from both sides. So if I subtract ax from the left hand side, I get 3x plus 4y minus ax, and the right hand side is now just 6. Okay, now we want to get rid of this 4 plus 4y on the left hand side, so we just have x's left. So we're going to subtract 4y from both sides. And we get 3x minus ax equals 6 minus 4y. Okay, so this is looking better. We've got all the x's on one side, but we still don't have x equals something. So what can we do? Well, what we can do is we can factorise the left-hand side. Both terms on the left-hand side, the 3x here and the ax, they both have an x in them. So we can take x out as a factor and write the left-hand side as 3 minus a times x. And the right-hand side is still 6 minus 4y. And this is a common method if you have x's on both sides. You often have to bring them both to the same side and then factorise that side to get x out as a factor. And now we have x sort of on its own but multiplied by 3 minus a. Well, if we divide both sides by 3 minus a, then we do indeed get x on its own. So let's do that. Divide both sides by 3 minus a. On the left hand side we just have x. On the right hand side we have 6 minus 4y over 3 minus a. And we're done. We've got x on its own, we've made x the subject, so this is our final answer.